So I just welded our wheel houses in. I figured I'd better come clean on something. Those are the wrong parts. Hello everybody, John here, Midnight Paint and Body Channel. On this video, I'm going to show you what's involved in replacing wheel arches and wheel houses in a new style 14 to 18 GM truck. So we're kind of on to the new generation of these trucks now rusting through. They're getting to that age. You've heard me say many times in my videos, I believe these trucks are all engineered to fail at about 10 years. That's where they all tend to rust through. Now this one is a 2014, so it's right in that threshold time frame. This particular truck is exceptionally clean. This is really low mileage, actually, 135,000 kilometers. I just noticed driving it in just now. For you guys in the States, is that like 80,000 miles, roughly? 160,000 kilometers, 100,000 miles, so it's probably somewhere around there, I guess. So typically, low mileage trucks, you know, they last longer before they rust through. So I haven't worked on this body style a lot. I did a set of rockers and cab corners on one a while back. You know, I'll post a link to that video in case you're interested. But other than that, I've done some repairs on these, but not a lot of rust repairs. So this particular truck, we are doing wheel arches and wheel houses. So as you can see, this one is letting go. She's rotting through, so it's time. So it's not showing really bad, but I mean, I show you guys this stuff all the time in these videos, but by the time you see these bubbles, as you can see, the paint is bubbled, but the paint is not cracked. So that tells you immediately that that is from the inside, that is for sure rusted through. And then look at how swollen this lip is. And that's, yeah, I mean, that's another clear indication that we have rust issues. And there's all the rust coming out in between. And I can feel that the wheel houses are soft in this one. So we'll see all that once I get it cut apart. So now, usually the driver's side is a lot worse than the passenger side. In this case, the passenger side is actually worse. Well, not by a lot, I guess. It's just bubbling just a little more. So as you can see, you can really see that one. Actually, let's just find something to poke that. Give me one sec. So, just to get kind of a better idea. Come on. Yeah, it's hard to do stuff one-handed. Especially when you're left-handed and trying to do it with your right hand. So now, you can see that one. It's wet inside, so there's moisture coming through from the inside of the panel. Take a screwdriver or something and start poking that, you know it'll be soft. But anyway, we'll get more to that because we're going to be cutting these panels out in just a minute. But as usual, let's just go have a look at our parts real quick so I can show you guys what we have. So our wheel arch repair panels. So these are 14 to 18 Chev. I'm not sure on this body style, but Chev and GMC are always different. They're never the same panels. So RRP 4452, so that is a rust repair panel. And this is, so the even number's left side. So the uneven number will be an RRP 4453. for the right side. Our wheel houses. So this is the panel that goes inside. These are an RRP 4444 for the right side. RRP 4443 for the left side. I just said even numbers left. In this case, the uneven numbers left. So scratch that. I thought it was always the even number on the left. Doesn't matter. So now these wheel houses. So this is where they weld together right there. So once these are installed, these will be plug welded, clamped to that lip. These wheel houses also have to weld to the inside of the bed side, the inner bed side. So I'm going to try and get around that so we're not burning the paint inside the bed. I'll show you that when we get to it. But these also spot weld along here. So once we get this thing cut apart, I'll be able to show you this stuff closer. I'm just going to go do a quick bit of tear down tail lights and mud flaps. And we'll get a cutting disc out and we're just going to have right at it. So I always try and show this part. So this is what rusts your truck out, guys. This is all the accumulated road debris that sits in between those panels. So that's all that is, sand and, you know, dirt and rust. You can see how thick it is. So that stuff sits in there, and as you can see, this is wet. It stays wet. I've said it many times in my videos, not much room in these ones, but the best thing you can do with any pickup, you know, once a year, take your taillights out and see if you can get a pressure washer in there and clean all that crap out. Personally, my own truck, every time I go to the car wash, I take the wand and I go up inside and try and spray up into there. Spraying up in the wheel well, it doesn't get any of that. But if you can get up underneath, you know, go up from the back, spray up in there, you can get that crud out of there, or some of it. And also on this body style, there's openings, so you could probably even spray your hose in there and it would rinse out some of that stuff. So, you know, just a suggestion to keep these things alive. But yeah, that's what does it. So I'm going to keep trimming and we'll move on to the next step. Now I always start small. Now this panel will go up to wherever, but the idea with those panels, you use what you need. I always just kind of take a small piece out, see where I'm at, make sure I'm at clean metal. We're going to need enough room to cut this inner wheelhouse, or outer wheelhouse, sorry, out as well. So we'll get to that in a minute. Actually, I just thought I would point out too before I continue taking this apart. So now remember I said it will need wheelhouses, so you might not think so because the truck wasn't that rusty, but these wheelhouses are super soft, so they need to be replaced. I'm going to loosely trim this wheelhouse out of the way. So the way I've done these in the past once or twice is to actually leave a bit of a flange in here. Now this will obviously be all cleaned up, tidied up, but these plug weld, spot weld to the inner bed side. And now the problem with that is once you re-weld that to the inner bed side, you're burning the paint inside the bed. which I'd just rather not do. I mean, it's not a big deal to spot it in there, but if you can avoid it, then why not? So, a couple options. I think I might do this with adhesive rather than welding. So if I do go that route, if I can get this inner off nicely, and these are usually just really loosely welded. There's like 3 small spot welds, so like these aren't super structural. So I might glue the new panel to the inner bed side so that we don't burn the paint. So let's see if I go that route. I kind of have a feeling that's where I'm gonna go. If you watch my videos, guys, or if you're new to the channel, I've been using structural adhesive more lately for these panels than I used to. I never used to be real big on it, but I've had pretty good success with it. I've had, you know, I've seen a couple of trucks that I did, you know, 5-6 years ago using that method, and they still looked perfect. So because of that, I'm kind of going back to adhesive. You know, not that the ones that are welded don't still look good, but I have had a couple of comebacks, and they were actually the same thing. There were trucks that were done like 5-6 years ago where there was you know, maybe some porosity in the welds, or I've had a couple that the repairs started showing through again. So I mean, 5-6 years, I still kind of try and look after for the customers if I can. You know, these rust through from the factory in that time frame sometimes, so you can only warranty them so long, but I try and stay good for the stuff that I've done. But anyway, I'm going to continue trimming these out. So as you can see, this is where our wheel hoses join. So these are plug welded along there. I should be able to get in there just with the air chisel and take the rest of that metal off. And then I think actually that's what I'm going to do. I will trim that right out, and we'll glue to that inner panel. A little test fit of our inner panel. These can be a little tricky to get in. Go in one end, slide back to the other end. Yeah, so they're, as long as you do that, they go easy. So now this, probably what I will do with this is glue to the inner bed side, but I will drill the wheelhouse section here, and I'll get in there with the MIG and weld this end. Now, you could glue both ends, obviously, but by doing that, I won't have to clamp it. I'll get it in place. I will weld these ends, and then it's solid, and then the glue can cure properly. Structural adhesive, to be used properly, relies on compression. It needs to be clamped, so it needs to be super tight. It needs to have a really good fit. So by doing it that way, getting it in there, gluing the inside, welding there, then that's going to keep tight to the panel, because I can't actually clamp inside there. So, like I said, it would just, you could glue the ends too, but it would just take more time. So it's just going to be faster the way I'm going to do it. Well, should we see what's behind door number 2? Should be cut out enough. Yep, this one's even got a good sized rock in there. So I have jumped ahead a little here, guys, so I've trimmed out our opening a little more. I have trimmed up our repair panel to where I'm happy with it, because we didn't need to use that entire thing. So, the battery actually just died there, so we fit up our panel. I've left there's about a 1/2 inch of overlap left around the panel. So I'm going to take a couple self-tappers. Okay. So there's where our panel's going to live. So those self-tappers, those are just going to be for alignment when we put it back on, when we are ready to glue it. So I'll bring you buddies back and kind of explain what we're doing next. I'm just going to jump over to the other side and kind of get it ready like this as well. Alright, so I have mixed up a little, so this is 3M 08115 panel bond structural adhesive. So I'll get more into this when we do the external panels. In here isn't as critical. Typically this glue you want to do on both sides that you are gluing. Typically you would squeeze it out of an applicator gun, but we'll get to that in a few minutes too, why I do it this way. Totally fine to do it without the gun. Right. So I just welded our wheel houses in. I figured I'd better come clean on something. Those are the wrong parts. Now, I'm a little embarrassed to say. So I've got everything fit. They fit in there nicely. But when I put the exterior panels on, they're just not a tight fit. They're tight to here, but they're kind of not really tight to this lip. So I double checked them. These are up to 2013. Those are the wrong ones. So if you look at the correct ones, you see how they're just a little bit of a different shape there. So these have this, like a jog there. These ones are more flat, and they kind of don't quite come down far enough. So I panicked. I phoned my supplier. I can't even get the 2014 style. So at the end of the day, this is going to be okay. These fit. They fit nicely. They're just not perfect here to where I'm going to have to build it up a little. There's going to be, you know, a 1/4 inch of glue in there to make up that seam, and that's okay. It's just one of those things. So I figured I better show you guys, because I gave you the part numbers on those. If you go and look those up, you're gonna, you might not know that they're the wrong ones, and I might be screwing you up if you're gonna do this job. So, not the best thing, but it is gonna be okay. So I'm just gonna go with it. I'm gonna run with it. Right now, I just want to get some paint on the inside of those panels. We're getting into the end of the day. I really wanted to get these glued on today, but no point rushing shit, guys. Sometimes it just makes it worse. The problem with the adhesive, once I glue these on in the morning, then I can't really do anything with them for 8 hours. I can put a heat lamp on them. I can probably, body work them towards the end of the day tomorrow, but the glue does take like a good 8 hours to cure before you're supposed to really do anything with it. So for now, I'm just going to get some paint. I'm going to paint in there. Then in the morning when the paint's dry, I can seam seal over some of that stuff. And yeah, and then we'll move on to the outside panels. Well, good morning. It's the next day here, guys. So my next step on these, I just like to take some brushable seam sealer and just seal up these joints. No, I'm just using a stir stick to get my sealer out of there because this can's getting low. I like to do this stuff. Let's just use a spreader. And completely cover that joint. So basically just like that. It's going to seal everything up really nice. I'm also going to get some of that sealer on my finger, and I'm going to get way back in there where it joins the bedside. Just going to smear in a little bit in there too. So we'll get that done, and then we're going to be about ready to put our outside panels on. Okay, so we're going to mix up some of our structural adhesive. Now, my usual disclaimer, guys. I'm just showing you the way I do things. I am by no means the professional. Just a guy that does body work. I'm just showing you what works for me. And this is probably what will work for more, average guys like most of us, if you don't have all the high-end stuff. So, our adhesive is a 3M 08115. This is the panel bonding adhesive. This is structural adhesive. So, typically, these have an applicator gun. You will put on one of these mixing tips. When you push the material through this mixing tip, it mixes them together. So you can run a nice bead on your workpiece. I don't have the applicator gun for this. I've said many times I don't use this stuff enough to warrant buying one because they're expensive, but I've been using it more and more, so I should look into getting one. So I'm just going to show you the way I do these. I find a couple of sockets that fit. Now you just want to squeeze out equal parts. Now they're not equal parts, this is 2 to 1, but equal distance in the tube, so you know what I mean? Oh, I should have warmed this up. It's cold in the shop this morning. Something I've mentioned before on these videos, while this stuff is a really good alternative to welding, You know, if you don't have a welder, this is awesome. But this stuff is about $100 a tube. And to do these 2 wheel arches, I will use this entire tube for sure. So now I'm just mixing it up like body filler. Just make sure it's mixed really, really well. And don't worry about rushing. You've got a really long work time with this stuff. It's not like filler that starts kicking over right away. I know I've said 8 hours before you can kind of body work it. But I think, actually, I know it's actually 24 hours. But I always use a little heat. You can force dry this stuff with heat. But again, you got to be sure that it is absolutely cured properly. All right, well, I'll see you guys back over at the truck. So, I'm going to give a little application to the bedside, and then I'm going to do the same on the inside of the panel. Now when you do the panels, make sure your bare metal is all covered. And this is how this stuff is prepped. You want a nice, like 36 grit scratch or tooth in the metal from a grinder disc. And then when you put this stuff on, make sure you cover all your bare metal. So we're going to do that all the way around there and all the way around here. Okay, so we're ready to put our panel on. So both sides are glued. I've just run a bead of sealer around here like the factory had, and then it's got some glue up around the lip as well. So we are ready. Hopefully I can just find my holes. Well, it's kind of loose now, but that's okay. All right, so that is loosely in place. I'm gonna go slap the other side on and I'll show you what we're doing next. Okay, so our next step, my next step, the way I do these. Because this adhesive requires compression, you can't clamp these panels. So this is the way I have always done these. This has always worked out. You might do it different, and that's fine. So I drill an 1/8 inch hole, 1/8 inch rivet. I put a ton of glue on the rivet to really seal it up. And then those rivets are going to stay there. Once this is all cured, this glue is structural. This stuff is what, you know, modern cars are put together with. So I will grind the heads off these rivets and I will finish this off with bodywork. So I'll show you that part when we get to it. I've never had a comeback with these. I've seen trucks that I've done like this. I think I said earlier in the video, like 4 or 5 years ago, and they still look good. So to me, because of that, I mean, I live in a small town. I've been doing this a long time. I tend to see vehicles that I've worked on over the years, so. And like I said, just showing you what works for me, not the way you have to do it, But it is a way you can do it, I guess. Apparently my riveter's kind of a piece of junk. Oh, that was sliding through, that's why. Come on. The shaft on that rivet's wanting to slip. Oh, there we go. So I'm going to go around probably every 4 inches or so. Maybe every 6 inches. Put a rivet in like that. And then we'll come back and have another quick look before I leave it for a few hours. Alright, so got all the rivets in. I'm just going to kind of smash the glue into that seam if I can. Now we're going to be grinding all this down before we put filler on. And people have asked me quite a few times about that edge of the metal. Now the edge of that sheet metal, I mean, it's so thin. So by the time we take a grinder, we're going to kind of bevel that edge off a little bit too. It's a really small amount to be feathering in with body filler. So don't let that scare you. It's not a lot of filler to fill such a small gap. I mean, we use more than that fixing dents for sure. Or filling in, I mean, if you'd be using the same amount if you're welding the panel, but I mean, grind your weld smooth. And account for any little warpage or Alright, so I'm going to smear the other side a little bit, and I'll probably throw a heat lamp on this. It's still early times. Oh yeah, it's only 9 o'clock. So probably by after lunch I'll be able to grind this and start body working it if I get heat on it right away. So I have had a heat lamp on this thing, a couple hours each side, so this is good and cured. So we're going to go ahead and start getting it ready for a little body filler. So, basically we're just going to grind the heads off our rivets, grind this all kind of smooth, and then I'll take it back a little farther with some 40 grit. I'll show you that in a minute. Alright, so we've got it all cleaned off. So our next step, my next step, the way I do them, is a skim of short strand fiberglass body filler. So this stuff just seals everything up really well. Kind of fill in that bit of a gap we have, like I was explaining, the thickness of the new metal. And don't be afraid of just filling a large area. Just because you're putting a lot on a big area doesn't mean it's thick, doesn't mean it's too much. going to be taking most of this off. And what stays on is going to be extremely thin. Because we're going to knock this off and then we're going to give it a coat of body filler after this. So. So here is one side pretty much ready for primer. So bodywork is done. As always, feel is super duper important when doing bodywork. If you can feel that transition to the metal, if you can feel anything at all, you're going to see it. No, you still have one more chance once you put high build primer on this. That's when you really fine tune it. So now, you guys saw what I did here. That looked like a lot of body filler, but really that was squeezing it on as, you know, as thin basically as I could put it on. Like there's no fill there. This is just leveling the surface. So, you know, at the end of the day, this is yeah, a really small amount of filler. It's just over a bigger area. Makes it seem like a lot. Yeah, this all feels really good. I'm really happy with that. So it's just that skiff of short strand fiberglass filler smashed into the kind of the transition. I just knock that off real quick, just a big machine. And then the actual body filler, you're leveling out that whole surface. And then the next thing will be a coat of epoxy primer and a couple of coats of high build urethane primer. And that is further going to level all this surface off. Once we put that high build primer on and then block sand that off, we're going to get this perfectly flat. So yeah, that one went well. I am just going to try and finish up the other side. It's getting late, but just about had it for the day. But I will see you guys back here in the morning, where I'll probably have this around at the booth and we can get some primer on it. So now that I have 3 coats of high build primer on the panels, 1 coat of epoxy, 3 coats of high build, differential housing for my buddy's race car. Just because I was spraying some primer, I sprayed that at the same time. But primer. Now I'm going to show you guys what I do next on these. So, as you can see, there's our panels we welded in. So you can see the new metal, the old metal. You can see those pop rivets that I glued and riveted. So what I have done, or what I do, so I take Schutz's gun. It's just an old undercoat can, but it's actually loaded up with just Krylon rust paint. So it's Krylon rust inhibitor stuff. I use it all the time. And now I'm going to use that Schutz gun. And I'm going to spray in there until I coat all of that new panel. I'll get up underneath from the front and from the rear, get up in there the best I can until that crap is running down there. So I'll try and get the camera so we can maybe see how this works. So I'm on to prepping, block sanding. I've had heat kind of intermittently moving around the panels all afternoon. This side has been blocked out. I've burnt through the primer a little bit, so just a couple little spot-ins with some primer. And once that all dries, then I'll finish these panels all to 400 grit. So getting pretty close on this side. This side doesn't need much more at all. I'm not recording much of the prepping part, guys, because it's kind of painfully boring. And it's just lots of block sanding until the panel is nice and straight and flat and true. Of course, the better your bodywork is, the less block sanding you have to do. But yeah, I'm not going to record much of this part. I'm just going to carry on blocking, moving my heat lamp around. I think when I see you next, it'll be tomorrow, and we'll have this in the booth for paint. Well, good morning again. So, I have jumped ahead a little. Our Chevy truck all prepped up, masked up. It is washed, tacked, and ready to spray. So our next step here is to mix some paint. So, now if you watch my channel, I know I've showed this kind of stuff before, but I know a lot of people are new to the channel too, so code on this truck is WA928L. Now, these paint codes aren't one size fits all. Just because you have the code off the truck doesn't necessarily mean the paint is going to match. So, obviously, it should match. It typically matches, but there's always variance on these colors. Now, in this case, I'm going to stick the camera so I can have two hands here for a second. So, these are the variants on this color. Now these are all this paint coat. These are all this color. But, you know, that truck might have been painted on Tuesday, and that truck might have been painted, you know, from the top of the 50-gallon drum of paint, and that one might have been painted from the bottom. So there's very commonly different variants. This truck might have had paint work done on it. Somebody might have painted a panel on it before now, and then, you know, because of their air pressure or their mixture, it might be a little bit different. So there's a lot of reasons these variants come into play. Most often, it is the standard variant. In this case, So this one's the standard, and in this case, that's the one I'm using. Most often it is, but also fairly often you'll look at these and think, that one's a little too light. I'm going to go with the darker, or the redder, or the, the brighter, whatever. So just to give you guys an idea, best out in the natural light, but you want to go up against, the next panel that you're painting against, and make sure you're choosing the right one. So, all that being said, let's go mix some paint. So in this case, I had a little bit of this color already in a can, so I've already put that in the gun, so that's why we already have the color in there. Together. Now, normally I wait until I've got the truck all detailed and cleaned up and ready to go before I end the video on them. But in this case, it's Thursday night and I just wanted to get this video out for tomorrow because I have been a little behind lately. I missed last week's upload. I'll try not to make a habit of that, but I've been kind of cutting back on these weekly jobs to get the big jobs done, so bear with me for a while. So this repair, obviously, I did this one with structural adhesive. You could do this either way. You can do this with a welder, or you could do it with the adhesive. Either way, I warranty these jobs. So, if you're the guy saying that, I did a bad job of this or whatever, I mean, I stand behind this stuff, and I will warranty it for the customer. Within reason, of course. I'm always good for this stuff. So it turned out really good. Nice straight panels, nice color match. You know, I'm happy with it how it turned out for sure. We'll get it final cleanup done on it in the morning, get it ready for the customer. So, as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, if you want to help out my little channel, you could, you know, hit subscribe or share the videos or comment on the videos, all that YouTubey stuff. If you don't want to, that's fine too. It's all good. But I do appreciate you checking it out, and I do hope you will come back and check out the next one. We'll see you then.